Hello everyone, and welcome to another video in our series of quick snapshots on using the new and also some of our all-time favourite functions in the newest version of the Husqvarna Viking and FAFT MySewNet embroidery software. In this video today we will be using the Platinum version of the software. We will be continuing on from the lesson we did previously with the Draw and Paint module where we created the Mandala. And so let's begin. We're going to start with opening our program in Digitizing. So we'll just wait for it to open the Digitizing program. We're going to stay with Create Express Embroidery, the same process we did with the previous lesson. So we'll just click Next down the bottom. We're going to come up here and click on Load a Picture. And we're going to find our mandala design that we created in the Draw and Paint lesson. So we'll click Next. We won't need to crop or rotate, so we will click Next again. We are going to change the hoop size, so come down here and click Change Hoop. And we're going to select the 200 by 200 square hoop in a natural orientation and OK. We also want to create the design size a little bit smaller than the 200 by 200 hoop, because when a satin stitch goes around the edge of the design, because the graphic image is halfway and you might have a 4mm satin stitch, you've got 2mm going over the graphic image. If you make that exactly the size of the hoop, then it's likely you'll have your satin stitching sitting outside the hoop area. So to fix this, we're going to put our little dot beside Enter Design Size. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to change the width to 190mm, which means it's just 10mm short of the full width, and then I'll click Next. I'm not going to change any of the colours here, so I'll just click Next again and now wait for it to create the design. As we noted in the previous lesson, we can choose our different weights of fabric from woven, fleece, knit, sheer and terry cloth, and when we change the weight of the fabric, it will also choose the density, the stitch pull compensation, tick underlay. It will also choose the best type of underlay for that fabric weight. So it could be just an edge run, it could be a double zigzag, or it could be a zigzag with edge run depending on your fabric. We're going to leave the preferred stitch type as 0 because we're going to be editing this design ourselves anyway. So now we'll just click Finish. Okay, so now that we've completed the design wizard, I want to just check how this design is actually going to stitch out. So I'm going to come up here to the design player and I'm going to start to play the design. I'm going to click on the fast forward button a number of times just to make it go a bit quicker. Okay, and you can see that it's working from the outside of the design towards the middle. However, when I stitch this design, I would like to stitch from the middle to the outer edges so it keeps the fabric square and straight. So I'll just click Cancel there, and now we'll address the stitching order and some of the inconsistencies in the design. Because you can notice that, as in the last lesson when we used the Express Design Wizard, in the gold and platinum module, we still had this stitch running across here. So let's address that first. So let's come down and find our white color changing here in our film strip. So here is our white color. Okay, so basically the first stitch that is creating the problem is stitch number 33. And the last stitch that goes across there before we go into an actual fill pattern of a diamond is stitch number 40, or object number 43. So if I hold down the Shift key and then I left mouse click on object 43, it'll pick up all of the objects in between. And then I just come up and click on Delete, and that quickly removes that unwanted stitching from the design. The other thing we're going to do is, because we're going to be editing this design by colour, it actually still has the background image behind it. So I'm going to come up here to the View tab and I'm going to just take the background slider right back to the left hand side so it hides the image completely. So then it won't interfere with where I can see my stitching. So now we'll go back to the Home tab, and in the film strip I'm going to scroll up a little bit until I find my purple colour, which is objects 15 and 16. So I'm going to select both of those objects, and then I'm going to come down here to the bottom of the film strip, and I'm going to select the first icon at the bottom, which is Move to Back of Design. And this now places them, instead of objects 15 and 16, they now become objects 1 and 2, which means they're going to be the first colours to sew out. So I'm just going to now select object number 2 only. I'm going to right mouse click, and then I'm going to left mouse click on Properties. Basically now I'm going to change my fill pattern by selecting the down arrow here, and I'm going to select radial fill, and I'm going to change the density from 20 back to 6 and click OK. And now you can see you've got this lovely radial fill created here. If I come into the purple area and right mouse click, I get the nodes or the editing nodes, but you'll see you've got your origin circle here in the middle. So if I left mouse click and hold on that, I can move that origin circle around, and you can see the different textures you'll get. I can even take the origin right out of the object itself, and I can create like a sunburst effect if I need to. But for the rest of this lesson, we're just going to put it back into the center position. So you can have lots of fun with the origin point within the design. So once we've done that, we're going to come down again, and we're going to locate our white color. So come down till we find our white, because this is going to be the second object I want to sew out in the design. So I'm going to select color number 29, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down and select number 39. So now I've selected all of the white. So I'm going to come back up here to object 29, left mouse click and hold, and as I drag it up you can see a dotted bar going between the objects. So I'm going to now put that so that dotted line goes between objects 2 and 3, and then I'll release the mouse key, and now that forces the white objects to be sewn second in the design. So the next part I want to do is object number 3, or color number 3, which is going to be the green. So I'm going to scroll down here until I find my green colors. So I'm going to select object number 28. I'm going to hold the shift key down, select object number 39. I'm then going to come back up to object number 28, left mouse click and hold, and I'm going to drag that up so the dotted line falls between objects 13 and 14. So now I've created the green to sew as the third color. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to then come in and select the blue. So I'm going to come down to my blue section. So I'm going to click on object number 33, hold the shift key down and click on 39, left mouse click and hold on color object number 33 and drag that up between 25 and 26. So now I've created the stitching order that I'm happy with for the design. What we're going to do now is we're going to come into our edit tab, so come up here and click on edit. Okay, and then we're going to scroll through by draw next color block. This is a fantastic tool. It's new to the digitizing program for My Sewnet embroidery, and it just helps us to isolate colors very quickly and very easily. So we've already dealt with our color number 1. So now we're going to come into, we find our white color, which is our diamonds. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to select object number 4, which says here that it's a pattern fill. Now if I right mouse click on that, you'll notice that we have a properties and a global properties. Properties will only affect the selected object, which means that I would only change the properties of that selected object. If I click on global properties, it will affect every object that says pattern fill in brackets 3 for the colors that are showing here in the film strip. So rather than changing each one of these individually, I can do them as a group. So that's why I'm going to select Global Properties. So once I've got that selected, I'm going to click on the down arrow here under our pattern swatch, and I'm going to look for the diamond category. So I'm just going to scroll up, okay, until I find the diamonds. Okay, and then I'm going to look for pattern number 106. So if you let your cursor hover over the little swatches, it'll come up with the number that you require. So there's number 106. I'm going to leave all of that other settings as okay, and then just click there. Now I want to have a uniform pattern running around there. So I'm going to come into my selected one and right mouse click, and I'm going to leave the origin point in the middle. However, this time I'm going to use the little orange dot, which is the rotation handle, and I'm just going to move that around. So it's probably on this particular one it'll be 12 o'clock until I get my 4 little diamonds set in the center of the big diamond. Then I'll select each one individually, and then I will just rotate that origin little handle there until I get my 4 diamonds showing inside the diamond. So this is a fantastic way. It's so visual. I don't have to remember angles. I can just move the little handle around and it all happens right before my eyes. So let me just finish these last couple so I make sure I get my diamonds centered. There we go. Okay, so once we've done that one, we're now going to draw next colour block. So we're going to come up here to the top left hand corner, click on draw next colour block, and we now have our green wedges. So with the green wedges, what we're going to do is on object number 15, I'm going to right mouse click, and I am going to select Global Properties. Okay, we'll leave it as a pattern fill, waves 1, and we're going to choose pattern number 233. Then we'll click OK, and the same thing I'm going to do is I'll leave the origin point where it is, but I'm just going to use the little rotation handle so I have a wave or a running through the middle of the wedge shape. So we'll just quickly play with each of those. So just so that they're all following the same contour. So once I finish that one, we will go draw next colour block again, and we have our blue hearts. Again, I'm going to right mouse click on object number 27 and select Global Properties, and this time we're going to come down here and we're going to select Circles 2 as our category, so up towards the top. Whoops. Circles 2, and we're going to use pattern number 80, so we'll select this one here and click OK. Again with our little origin point. This time I'm actually going to move the origin point to the cleavage of the heart, and then I'm going to move the rotation handle till it points down towards the pointy bit of the heart, and so that will now make sure that I have a set of circles running straight down the middle of the heart shape. So again, move the origin point to the cleavage, and then take your rotation handle so it points to the bottom of the heart. So we're just going to repeat that for each of the shapes, and then you can get them all lined up. I just love this. It's just so easy now to get everything exactly where you want it. Okay, so now I've got my circles running straight down the middle of each heart. So once we've done that, we're going to come up here now and we're going to click on Display All Objects. So now I get to see the complete design. So what I'm going to do now is come back to the Home tab up in the top left hand corner, and I'm going to isolate just color number 4. So I'm going to deselect all of the colors except number 4 by just left mouse clicking in each of those boxes. So now all I'll see is just the blue hearts. I'm going to come up to the ribbon bar and click on Select All Visible, and now it's put a selection box around the hearts. I'm now going to click on Copy and Paste. So why did I use Copy and Paste and not Duplicate? If I use Duplicate, it automatically copies and pastes, but it offsets the second design by 5%. And I wanted the second set of hearts to come exactly on top of the originals. So that's the difference between copy and paste versus duplicate. You'll notice that some of the black satin stitching has become visible on the screen, so I'm just going to come over and deselect that from the colour palette. I'm now going to hide colour number 4, which is my original hearts, and now I'm just left with the objects for the top set of hearts. So once I'm going to do that, I'm going to come over here and double left mouse click, and I'm going to select, just out of quick colors, I'm going to select a darker blue and OK. So now that's going to differentiate what are the first hearts and what are the second hearts. I'm now going to come back over here to the film strip and right mouse click. Now because it's a group, you are only offered properties, but because it's a group, it'll affect all of the properties within that group. So that's the difference for that particular terminology there. So now I'm going to come up to my pattern fill options, and I'm going to select curved crosshatch fill. I'm going to create the gap spacing as 3.5, and I'm going to change the diamond angle here to 60, and then click OK. You can see a nice curved crosshatch fill. So now we'll go back to the Edit tab, and I'll click Draw Next Color Block, and this will see the orange objects on the screen. So we're going to right mouse click on object number 41. We're going to select Global Properties. I'm going to come to the pattern fill box. I'm going to click on the down arrow, and I am going to select multi-wave, and we'll change the density to 6 and OK. So what multi-wave does is it actually follows the contour of the shape that you've got. So once we've done that, we'll click on Draw Next Color Block, and this gives me all of the black outline satin stitches. So I'm going to come down here to object number 49. So make sure it says satin line, not running stitch. So right mouse click on 49 satin line, go to Global Properties, and I'm going to narrow it down to 2 millimeters and click OK. So now we've just made our satin stitch a little finer, so it's not so heavy. So again, let's come back up to Display All Objects, and now there's your design ready to be saved and stitched out. So just remember that when you're working within the digitizing program, that you will need to save the design as what we call an EDO, which is the native digitizing file for editing if you need to come back and change any of the objects within here. So we just come up here to Save, find your folder, and then we'll just put it into there. So, and we'll just call it Mandala and save. So that means that if I ever need to come back and do editing, then I can bring it back into here. There are a few changes I would still make to this design personally, is that for the, you can notice that the satin stitch has got blunt endings on it. So we can play around a lot more with this. So just quickly to show you what you can do, okay, is I'm going to come down, because this is the first object in the black colors. I'm just going to hold the control key down and I'm going to select all of the stitches that make up that particular object. Oops, that's not that one. Okay, and then I'm just going to right mouse click and delete. So now I've removed that one. So again, I'll just go through and delete all of those quickly. Okay, one more. Delete that. So now I've basically deleted all of the unwanted stitches around the multi-wave. So now what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll draw next colour block until I see just the orange multi-waves, and then I'll right mouse click, go to global properties, and over here where it says no border line, I'll click on the down arrow here and select satin line. Okay, by default it's 4mm, so I'm going to bring that back to 2. Now what I want to do is I want it to have a different border colour from what is there, so I want it still to be black. So I'm actually going to put insert a colour change, and then I'm going to change the colour to black, and then click OK, and then click OK again. So now what it's done is it's now put satin stitching around it, which will give you mitered corners, but there's still again some editing that needs to be done. So if I go display all objects, you can see it looks much neater when it's like this. I'd also do the same for the hearts. I would take away the pre-digitized satin stitching around that, and I would add in the color change for that as well. Alright, so that's our little lesson on digitizing and how to edit. So just quickly, if I close out of the digitizing program, it says save changes because I did make a change, so I'll say yes. And now it brings it back into our embroidery screen. You will notice it still has the green handles around the outside of the design, which means that if I wish to resize it up or down, okay, it will actually recalculate the stitch count based on whatever size that I make it. So if I want to make it thinner and narrower, then I can do all that, and it will change the properties based on my digitizing file. So that's another great advantage of being able to link back from one program to the other. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and please let me know if there's any other particular types of techniques you'd like to learn. I'd be happy to write up a lesson for you. So goodbye now, and happy digitizing. See you next time. Bye for now.